Good morning, everybody. Well, we all know that time flies. So if time flies, why can't your marketing soar along with it? And that's what we're here to talk about today, how mid-year you can reset your marketing with 5 steps to repower your marketing so that you get the most out of it in 2017. My name's Sharon Berman. My company's Berbay Marketing and Public Relations, and we create the visibility and credibility that fuel revenue growth. Okay. So what makes this time of year powerful in terms of marketing, as opposed to a lot of people think that it's January 1st that's more powerful? Well, there's a lot to be said for August 11th, 2017 to be focusing on your marketing. Number one is perspective. When you're looking at January 1st, you have the whole year in front of you. It's like the ocean liner being in the middle of the ocean and all you see is water around you and calm seas. And you think to yourself, oh, I don't have to think about that conference. It's in November. Whereas you have a totally different perspective now, right? When you're looking at what am I going to get done before the end of the year, or what do I want to achieve? You're looking at cliffs right in front of you looming, and that makes you focus differently. There's compression. It's a time compression. Once again, when you have all that time looming in front of you, it seems like it's going to take you have plenty of time to be thinking about things, and then right now you're looking and going, oh my God, the holidays are around the corner. So once again, it changes. Compression and focus make you move differently. And number 3 is data. We have 7 months of data now, how the year is going, what the trends are people buying more, they're buying less, bigger, smaller. So you have a lot of information to work with that can tell you and guide your marketing for the balance of the year. So in many ways, it's a very powerful time of year to be focusing on your marketing. Okay, so where do you want to start? The first place you want to start is to look at your foundation. Just like there's a State of the Union, you want to look at the state of your marketing. And the first thing I want to say is this is not to overwhelm anybody. What we're doing here is an assessment, an evaluation, nothing where you have to say, oh my gosh, look, I'll never get it done. But it's just to see where you are and where to go from here. So first you want to look at your database. Your database can be your email list. It can be if you have a CRM, it's really how are you going to communicate with the audiences you want to communicate with. Who do you want to let know about the fact that you were on the front page of the New York Times in a glowing article, and how quickly can you get that out? So you want to think about, is my database really, for some professionals, it's still a bunch of business cards that they've been intending for a long time to organize and get into some kind of software. For others, you may have your database, but nobody looks at it. You look at it once a year for your holiday cards. Or you may have a stack of business cards that you've been meaning to, because you know these are people you want to enter or people who've changed, that you want to be updating that. So you want to look at your 1, 2, 3s of what you need to do with your database. And if it's in great shape, wonderful. Okay. Number 2 is tracking. What kind of systems do you have in place to track where your leads and your business come from? And I'm emphasizing that we're looking not just at where your business comes from, but where your leads are coming from. Because you may have sources that you're investing in that are generating leads, but are not bringing you, they're not converting, or it's not the kind of business that you want. So you want to make sure that you have some sort of system. Today, of course, with online, there's so many analytics in terms of your social media, in terms of your website, which is fabulous, but that's only part of the whole universe. You want to be looking at networking, where leads coming from networking, from your PR, and other sources. It can be a challenge. There's no question about it, because you may have a lot of professionals in your firm, and some will participate in this and some won't, but you want to be working with them in terms of talking with them. Maybe it's an email that goes out once a week, any phone calls, leads that I should enter in our system, and then also be tracking conversions, because you want to know how many leads do you need to generate in order to get that one client. That's going to drive your marketing plan. The one thing I want to say about tracking is that it's just become so important, and it's always been important, but the recognition of that has grown so much. And really, it's just not okay not to track, okay? when we started the business more than 20 years ago, I'd encounter a lot of firms that would just say, you know what, we're not going to track. We don't track. We're not going to track. And I just think, okay, all right, fine. I'm not going to hit my head against a brick wall. But today, there are firms that never tracked before that we're working with that over the years have recognized how important it is. And over, no matter what field I listen to in terms of listening to marketing gurus, they're always talking about the fact that you have to capture this information. So number one, be thinking about that. Put that on your list, and be thinking about just a couple things about how you might do that, who you might need to talk to. And right now would be a great time of year, because even if you can't capture the information for this year, the systems take time to put into place. So if you want to be ready to go January 1st, 2018, now's the time to do it. Okay, credentials. By credentials, I mean your bio, your LinkedIn profile. What is the state of your credentials? For example, we often talk with professionals who tell us they are the only one who do this kind of work, or the only one who has this particular kind of practice. But if you look at their biography, or you look at their LinkedIn profile, you couldn't tell them apart from anybody else. So revisit your credentials and make sure that you want to look at them and say, is this telling the story I want to tell? That's number one. Number two is you also want to avoid the laundry list. You know, I smile when I look at so many biographies and they will say, we focus on, and then they have a list of 40 things. Well, how do you focus on 40 things? You know, you want to be remembered. So put the things that you really want to be remembered for and that you really focus on. And it doesn't mean the rest won't come, but at least you'll be remembered for something. Okay, and your website and social media. I realize this can be overwhelming, but it's time to really assess what the state of your website is and your social media. In terms of social media, that can just be LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be everything. It doesn't have to be Twitter, Instagram, everything. It can just be LinkedIn. Your website. When was the last time you redid your website? If it's more than 18, 24 months ago, it's time to really revisit it. And you don't even have to overhaul it. Just look at what needs to be updated. But I would say, in terms of revamping a website, that if you haven't done it for a few years, it's really time. I know it's a Herculean task. There's no way around it, but it's worth it. The other thing is, if you did your website in the last year or you finished it yesterday, I'm sure that you recognize that a website is a never-ending work in process, that you're always adding to it, you're always freshening it, and that's what you want to be doing, because it's where, no matter where the referral comes from, or no matter who mentions your name, the first thing, of course, anybody does is go to look at your website and your LinkedIn profile. So you want to make sure that you are telling the story you want to tell. You want to make sure that your website reflects what you're telling, what you want to tell the world. For example, we've talked with several firms that work in entertainment, or they work in intellectual property, and they really are cutting edge in so many ways in terms of the kind of work they do, but their website is behind that. And you want to be able, because so many people now are coming in cold through the website, you want to be able to have that immediately at least give the kind of impression that you want to give. Okay, so this is just, it's an assessment. It's not like, okay, stop and do each thing. Let's just, right now you have your list and your assessment of the state of your marketing foundation. Okay, step 2 is look at the calendar. And I say look at the rolling 12 months, because you don't want to be, what you want to be doing is what a sprinter does, or anybody in track and field, is that you want to run through the finish line, the finish line being December 31st. You want to run through December 31st and have your marketing roll right into 2018. So you want to be looking at 12 months, not just through the end of the year. And on that calendar, put what the conferences are that you always attend, or that those in your office attend. Put talks that you know you're going to be giving, or that you'd like to be giving, and want to be talking to people about getting on the panel. Holiday cards, gifts, promotions, any kind of a promotion that you do. If you do something around, you know, April 15th or Thanksgiving, get that on the calendar. Is there upcoming legislation or regulatory changes or things that are related to that you need to calendar? What are the forecasts you want to be making, and what do you want, and when do you want to be doing that? And also your vacations. Make sure those are on so you're not slating important marketing activities for the time when you're going to be out of the office. Get these on your calendar and then work backwards in terms of when do you need to start planning. It doesn't have to be granular, but you want to at least have an overview of these are the important things that are on the calendar for the next 12 months. And this is really when I need to start thinking about it. We all know to get the most out of a conference takes a lot of pre-planning. If you're going to be, a lot of firms are scrambling when it comes to their gifts, their holiday cards, and still figuring out what to do in November. You might want to be thinking about that now. Get the important things on the calendar. I always find that that's extremely, it helps wrap your hands around your marketing because you can see what your year is going to look like and you can see what you need to get done before the end of the year. Okay, powering up. So now you have your assessment, you have your calendar, and now you want to be looking at your plan. What's your plan for the balance of the year, and what is your plan looking like in the next 12 months? One thing I want to say, what's very powerful about this time of year also is I kept asking myself, what kind of different questions would somebody ask when they're thinking about their marketing and putting together a marketing plan? What are the kinds of different questions they might ask at this time of year versus, when you're putting together your plan for, let's say, all of 2018? And I couldn't think of any questions that were different in terms of thinking about your marketing plan. And I Googled and read, and I thought, you know what, the questions are the same. But the difference is you have this compressed time frame that's so motivating and also a block of time you can get your hands around. So this is where the plan is so critical in terms of energizing your marketing, all right? Because your back is against the wall. And right now you can be putting that plan together and getting into action. Okay, so number one, you're going to prioritize, right? If you've really done your assessment, you have this whole list of things that you want to do. So you want to prioritize. You want to be looking at what can I do right now? What's the low-hanging fruit? For example, we'll talk more about that. What's the low-hanging fruit, and what is the long-term? What do you need to do long-term? Because, for example, your website. If you're saying, well, we really need to redo our website, that's, once again, it's pushing the boulder uphill. But break it down into pieces, similar to eating the elephant. You can only do that in bite-sized chunks. So start with your list of, for example, finding the right vendor, or finding out who in the firm needs to be involved or wants to be involved. Making a list of other websites that you like. I mean, there are a lot of tiny steps that you can take in terms of getting to that long-term goal. And looking at long-term, I had an interesting conversation yesterday at lunch with a lawyer, and he was talking about the fact that he'll be working for another 15, 20 years, but how his website wasn't that important, and the search engine optimization aspect wasn't that important to him. And I know there's still resistance in a lot of places about search engine optimization, even though people understand, or search engine ranking, meaning coming up to the top of the rankings on Google. But and today you may not get a lot of business through your website, but if you want to be thinking about, I said to him, let's think about five years down the road. If we're already seeing so many more people, and especially millennials, who are looking for everything online, including lawyers, including CPAs, including all kinds of advisors, then what's that going to be like in 5 years? If you say you're going to be working 15 years, you have a long way to go and you have a long horizon. So you don't want to turn around in 5 years and say, yeah, I guess people are finding people online. I better get going, because that is a longer lead time. So you want to be thinking in terms of your long-term, really what needs to be done now, so you don't turn around in 5 years and say, oh, I wish I'd started 5 years ago. Okay, short-term, you want to be thinking about what you can repurpose, package, and leverage now. For example, if you gave a talk recently, can you turn that into a blog post? Can you turn it into a webinar? Can you turn that into an article? You've already done all the work, you've done all the thinking. It's so much easier to repackage that, and packaging is a big word that we use. How can you repackage that and get so much more marketing mileage out of it? And I always envision it as somebody standing in their office or sitting at their desk and looking around at everything around them and all the papers on the ground, whether you have papers on the ground or not. But we are all sitting up to our knees in material that can be repackaged, repurposed, and leveraged. That can be, so we can multiply the marketing effect. If you are a blogger, so many of the blogs could be pitched to the media to see if you can get interview opportunities or article opportunities. You may take those blog posts and repurpose them as in an email blast with saying, hey, just want to show you what we've done in the last 6 months in terms of topics we've covered. We all have limited time, limited energy, and limited resources. So the goal is, in the short term and long term, but the short term, let's get the most out of everything that we have. Okay, so the next question, of course, and this is where the stumbling block often comes in, is who is going to do this and what kind of resources do you have? And that varies, and no matter how big or small your firm, there's always limited resources. Okay, so who is going to do it? When you're putting together your plan, it's really key to be thinking about what's realistic and who can do it. And if you don't have that today, there are so many options in terms of you know, freelancers and projects. We were talking about, it used to be Elance. I think it's called Upwork now, where you can find people who might do this kind of project or that kind of project. So the who, if you don't have a who, another who, you can always find somebody in today's world. The important thing, too, in order to make life easier, is to systematize things. And by systematizing, it doesn't even have to be a piece of software that automates something, although that's great, but really creating consistency. We always send our, it could be that you always send your newsletter out on, you know, the 15th of the month, or we always have a webinar the second Thursday in the quarter of the first month in the quarter, and really saying, okay, this is what we do, and we know what our deadlines are. So it just makes life a lot easier as opposed to scrambling and saying, uh-oh, it's time to get the next webinar up. So systematizing it as much as you can, and the consistency is one of the key factors of success when it comes to business development and marketing. Doesn't have to be breakthrough. It has to be consistent. Okay. All right. Seems like I have, oh, I see. Okay, so you know my computer is giving me a message here. Okay. All right, delegating. Of course, this is so important. Who can you delegate to? And I know there's some things that only you can do because you are the one with the brain power, but there's a lot of things that can be delegated, or at least the first pass can be done by somebody else so that you don't have to be staring at a blank screen. I was, again, talking with somebody yesterday, and they were talking about the fact that only they could write their copy for their website. Nobody else could do it. Okay, this person is smart. This person has a lot of experience, but they were in what I'll call generic practice areas. We weren't talking about maritime. We weren't talking about reinsurance. We were talking about more generic practice areas that a lot of people could write your copy based on interviews with you. You want to differentiate it. You want to pull out what is important, but somebody could have written that first pass, especially if he was going to be the bottleneck. So that's, to me, there's a lot that can be done by somebody else doing the first pass, and you want to think about who can you delegate to. Yes, you want to put your own stamp on it. You want to put your personality on it, but it doesn't mean that the whole thing has to be done by you. So think about the delegating. And think about outsourcing in today's world. We provide outsourcing marketing services for a lot of our clients. They don't have marketing in-house. Think about how you can They're freelancers, there's Upwork, there are all kinds of ways that you can outsource pieces of your marketing so that it gets done. That's the bottom line. A lot of what outsourced providers do is not rocket science, but it's the fact that it gets done, or it motivates you to get things done. So there's a lot of power in that, and you can really magnify your brain and all your expertise and experience if you can work with either by delegating or however, work with others so that you can augment everything you know and get more out of it and get more business. That's what this is all about. Okay, so step 5 is for your marketing to take off. If you start today, August 11th, and you look through the end of the year, December 31st, and say, what am I going to do? When am I going to do it? Who is going to do it? And really focus on that and have really solid milestones, your marketing will take off and you will zoom into 2018. So thank you very much for listening. I know that you are all professionals who care tremendously about your marketing, and I know that if you look at these 5 steps, your marketing is going to take off in 2018. I'm Sharon Berman. My company is Berbay Marketing and Public Relations, and we create the visibility and credibility that fuel revenue growth. Please get in touch with me, Berman@berbay.com. Would love to talk with you if you want to talk further, or would like to you have questions like you'd like to run through. And also, please keep your eyes open for our upcoming webinars. We will be having a series of them going through the end of the year. Thanks very much.